I mean, yes, it's a crucial part, of course, to scaling a business. It's sold for $135 plus shipping. And I do it all by myself. Why would I ever need to do anything else? You don't. It's another beautiful day at the warehouse. Arrived a bit late this morning. Had a long night. It happens. First thing I did was unload all of the boxes we just got in from USPS.com. If you're not familiar, you can go to USPS.com, order free shipping material. Just beware if you get the USPS priority boxes that you have to ship priority, yada yada. You can get all that information from them, USPS.com. Not a lot of businesses that you can get like 95% of all of your shipping stuff for free, which is pretty awesome. In today's vlog, I'm going to talk to you specifically about scaling a business. So how do you actually scale a eBay business? Is it worth it? How does it actually work? What are different ways you can do this? In case you are wanting to or have ambition to scale your business like we are, I'm going to point out some things that may change your mind or at least help you out in the future. So stay tuned. While I'm here at the warehouse, Melinda is at home. She's taking care of Jessica, drops her off, gets all the listings done, takes care of accounting work, and make sure that the most important part of our business is going well, which is getting 60 listings up every single day, no excuses. Before I jump into the meat and potatoes of scaling your eBay business, there's one project that I'm working on right now that should increase our sales, and it has to do really with the cash flow that we talked about 2 videos ago. So in this case, what I've decided to do, for better or for worse, is take down every single clothing and shoe listing on our old eBay store. What I mean by old eBay store, it's the original everything store that we started with under Hustle and Hooks. That store has been pretty stagnant since, basically for a year now. And so because we're not listing anything new into that store, sales aren't converting. That's because traffic is down tremendously. Sales are very inconsistent. So my thought was, let's just swallow the pill and get this over with. There's probably something like 200 or 300 items left that are clothing items on that store. So last week, as you can see behind me, I took down, physically removed them from the shelves, put them in these shopping carts, and now Allie's working on getting them all processed again, and we're gonna redo all the photos, redo every single one. That means at the old store, I'm gonna take down all those listings and end them. I gotta go to Poshmark, end them there as well. They'll be done. The main reason we decided to do that is, well, first of all, that inventory is not moving whatsoever. So that's hundreds of dollars of cash flow that's just sitting there, not making us any money. So that's reason number one. Reason number two, it's one of the last few remaining steps of converting to our new business model, which is clothes and shoes at volume, before we can really start focusing on every single processing step throughout the entire process of getting the inventory, processing, listing, selling, packing, shipping. That's kind of the destination we're headed for. We want to complete the last remaining pieces of the puzzle before we can really focus on this brand new business. Even though it's not brand new, it really is, because we're still converting, if that makes any sense to you guys. The other option was to just let it sit in the old store and just kind of sell over time. We did sell 7 things from the old store this past week. We did list 5 new items there, just some random things we found in the garage, like a E1 camera from Canon. We found some video games that were just kind of hanging out, things like that we, that were just in our death pile in the garage, not making us any money. Those items sold pretty quickly. We also sold some random other stuff, and then we did sell 2 of the clothing pieces from the old store that I already pulled, which is perfectly fine. I'm confident that once we get all this inventory relisted into the new store, that it'll sell much faster, because we actually know what we're doing now, almost a year in, just focusing on shoes and clothes. As I'm filming this, Allie is already taking pictures and processing the stuff that I pulled. It's gonna give us a bunch more space, as a lot of that stuff came from row B and row C. I already consolidated row C until about right here. I'm also working on D, so it's gonna open up a bunch of space down here so we can basically just put them in the same rows, but at the end of the inventory. We still get questions on, like, why don't you guys fill the gaps instead of consolidating? So let's just talk about that for just a second, because I think I can explain it pretty well. So let's find a gap here somewhere. How about right here? So there's D389 is still active. or I'm sorry, 383, I apologize. And then the next one is 389. And the question is, well, why don't you guys just, instead of consolidating, leave this gap, then figure out your gap, and then just redo the numbers, D384 through 388. Well, let's look at it from this point of view. Could you imagine doing that at this scale? Like, there's no way, right? There's nearly 7,000 items in this store. That's just one side. Then there's this other side. Could you imagine that? On a very small store, yeah, if you have like 150 items, then yeah, leave the gap, sure, but it just doesn't make any sense. It would be such a waste of time to leave these gaps and then not consolidate. The other thing that I'm reading in the comments is like, well, it seems like consolidating will take you a lot of time. Well, it's like, okay, it has to get done. So it's like, it doesn't truly take that much time because it's a really brainless activity. All I'm doing is squeezing bags, right? So I'm just squeezing forward, moving bags, and it's just, you just do it. So does it take a lot of time? Everything takes a lot of time. I don't know. I mean, it's just like you have to do that. That's like part of the business. You have to take the pictures. You have to list the item. You have to have a good inventory system. Otherwise, you're going to fail. So I just wanted to address that, and hopefully that explains it. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and consolidate, make room. I also have 86 or 87 orders to ship out, so I have to get that done. I'm going to focus on that first, making sure that Allie can continuously work without interruption, so making sure she has spaces to fill here, making sure she knows what items need to be photographed, and so on. I'm going to pick all those orders, get that packaging done, and then we're going to start breaking down how to actually scale this business. If you guys watched a couple of videos ago, I'll link it right here on the screen. You can see the difference of actually taking care of those death pile items. So this Dansko shoe, that was a relist item. This pair of Harley Davidson jeans that sold, these were also part of the death pile that just sat there and sat there. Again, taking action with your old stale inventory actually works. Like, you convert into sales. The point is to convert into sales. It's not how many listings do I have, it's conversion. Got all of the eBay orders selected here in this beautiful shopping cart. All of the Poshmark orders. I'm gonna go ahead and get all this stuff packaged first. It's a really kind of a pain in the butt on Mondays, because there's just typically a lot of orders going out, so things just get kind of hectic. So I like to get shipping done first thing in the morning, while Moon does listing first thing in the morning. That way this task is done, so I can move on to the next. We did have some non-clothing or shoe sales this weekend, which is kind of strange for us. This belongs in that. First off, this little, I think American Girl, just a little raincoat for 15 bucks, free shipping. We've had this for a long time. Came in a bundle, so it'll be 100% profit, as we've already made our money back plus some. These video games were just kind of sitting in my garage. MDK, never heard of it, never played it. It sold for 25 bucks plus shipping, pretty fast. Metal Gear Solid for 15 bucks plus ship, again sold pretty fast. Old video games just do really well. Anytime you're at garage sales, just look out for old video games. Sports games, not so much. Action games do pretty well. Another thing that sells extremely well on eBay is the AE1 Canon camera. This with the flash and a couple of cheap lenses all sold for $135 plus shipping. And that sold in 2 days, again, just from the death pile in the garage. These replacement light protectors or light bulb protectors from our old ceiling fan sold for 40 bucks free shipping. We'll make like $15 profit on them. We have zero invested. We were replacing the lights anyways, so we figured why not just pop on eBay. Took about 9 months or so to sell, but it's nice because they're not going to the landfill and someone will actually use them. Just a couple of jean sales, a pair of Carhartts and a pair of silver jeans, 18 bucks plus ship each. So that's it from the old store. I'm not going to go through any of these sales from the current store. Melinda will do that in upcoming videos, so definitely stay tuned for those. As you can see behind me, I just finished all of the shipping. It took a while, and that's all right. It's the best part of this entire business because that means the stuff is out the door and roughly 5% will come back, which is, I think, something we need to work on based off of you guys' comments. So I appreciate you guys in the last video sharing what your actual return rate is, because I think there's a lot of things that we can clean up here to reduce our own. Only one issue I currently have is that I cannot find one pair of shorts, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to use our inventory system to try to locate it. The issue with this one is that it was a return, and I made a mistake. When it was returned, I relisted it, but I did not update the SKU number. So originally it's showing, let's take a look. So right now it's showing, it's these vintage Jansen tennis shorts. It's showing E156. So let's go take a look at E156, which is going to be, right here is E155, and then as you can see, the next one is E158. So it's not there. Now, am I going to go through every single one of these to try to find them? I'm not. No way. So, a trick that I learned, I'll show you how I'm going to do it. I can figure out when we listed that item by simply clicking into it, and it looks like if I just click on the record here, it shows that it was September 6th. So I'm going to go find everything else that we listed September 6th, because when we relist inventory that has been returned, we do it in batches. So they're usually like 5-6 returns. We re-inventory all at once, and then usually we're pretty good at updating that SKU on the bottom so we know where it's at. Again, in this case, my mistake, I didn't. I'm gonna go to that item. I found out it was September 6th. I'm gonna find all of the items, or pull up all the items on there, and looks like the first area I'm gonna check is all the M's. So you can see here on September 6th, we got a M150, M152, M154, and I know for a fact all three of these were returned. So let's go check between M154 and M150, that area. So that's going to be this way, M140, 144, 147. There they are. I'm pretty sure that's it. I'll double check the tag. So M149. Yep, those are the vintage Jansen sports, the shorts I was looking for. Let me pack these up real quick. Let's talk about scaling. The first thing I would recommend to anyone that's considering scaling their business, meaning growing the amount of items they have for sale and how much they're selling per day, etc. The first thing I would recommend that you do is pause this video and figure out what you actually want to do. Do you really want to do a similar thing that we're doing here, for example, which is bulk gain clothing, as you see behind us, and shoes? After you figure that out, kind of draw out a realistic plan to execute that vision. That's really important. Otherwise, you're going to kind of spin your wheels for no reason, and the term which is really unpleasant is the term of a busy idiot. And I don't mean that in any offensive way. I just mean that oftentimes in business and in life, people just tend to run around, do, go, do, but they don't really have an end. It's just kind of like, this is what I do. I just run around and I run around and I run around. So I definitely don't want you to be that. And if you are that or something like that right now, again, I don't mean that in an offensive way. Maybe it's time to sit down and reevaluate what you're doing this for, why you're doing it, and what your end goal is. Otherwise, you may be spinning your wheels over and over. So after you figure out what you actually want to do, the next step would be just to lay out where you're currently at and what you need to do to get to that desired point. And really, there's only a few ways to scale this thing. And this is really independent of the category or items that you want to sell. This could be anything. This could be shoe specific, clothing specifics, vintage electronics, collectibles, knickknacks, soaps, glasses, replacement puzzle pieces. It doesn't really matter. After you figure out what you actually want to do and what you want to sell, you need to figure out how to source the stuff in bulk. That's the first one. If you want to get serious about scaling your business, going thrifting and garage selling is just not going to cut it. There's just no way that we can find the abundance of stuff that we have coming into us with just going thrifting or garage selling. Like, there has to be a strategy in place where you figure out your bulk suppliers to get the stuff delivered to you, what you want at the price point that you can scale. That's really important, and you can do that in several different ways. One is figuring out the players around you. So who's doing what around you? Figuring out who's attending these, let's say, flea markets. Who are the common folks at the flea markets that you can connect with and buy in bulk from? Who are the common players at your Goodwill outlet, thrift store? Who are those people, and can you get them to sort for you and buy from them in bulk? What about your neighborhoods, your communities, your mosques, your synagogues, your churches? Can you figure out a way to work with those communities and say, hey, I'll give back 15% or 10%, or I'll buy in bulk. What about thrift stores that are not part of these giant chains like local mom and pop thrift stores you can work with and say, hey, I look specifically for puzzles, I'll buy all your puzzles in bulk. So that's your first one, is figuring out how to get stuff in supply. The second one, it might be obvious, but it's really one of the hardest, which is labor. How are you going to staff your reselling business so you can actually not do all the work by yourself and have other people do it for you? I think people really overthink this. I mean, yes, it's a crucial part, of course, to scaling a business, is getting enough labor to do all the tasks that you need done in a day so you can actually grow. It would be almost impossible for us to do 60 listings a day if it was just Melinda and I. Now, if we were both working 50 hours a week without having to worry about childcare, then yeah, maybe we could definitely pull it off, but we wouldn't have a lot of time to ourselves, that's for sure. Start with the basics. So figure out, your aunts, your uncles, brothers, sisters, mom, dad, family, friends that are just looking to make some extra cash. Those are the people that you want to target first as far as who you want to hire, and kind of learn and grow with them. Once you get to the point where you can afford to pay someone an actual livable wage, right, then you would have to look into, forming your LLC, getting payroll, all that good stuff. That stuff is expensive, insurance is expensive, payroll is expensive, taxes get expensive. So you have to really be mindful of that. But that's really the only way to do it. I mean, it's really a two-piece puzzle here. Where do I get the stuff? Who's going to process and do all the work? And how do I merge those together to scale? Otherwise, again, there's really no other way to do it. You may be one of those folks that say, well, my 90-day total on eBay is 75,000 or 150,000. I do it all by myself. Why would I ever need to do anything else? You don't. You just continue doing that. Like, doing this full-time isn't as glorious as fun as people imagine it is. I mean, it might look interesting or fun through the screen, but there's a lot of work and a lot of grunt labor that goes into building something like this. If you don't have that vision of like, I want to sell 100 things a day or 200 things a day, then I would just stick to what you're doing, which is, do it yourself, no overhead, super slim, there's no expenditures really, and you get to reap more benefits. Now, you're going to have to do all the work, and it's going to be extremely difficult for you to scale it beyond what you can manage in a 7-day week. But again, you have to figure out what you want to do. And if you want to just continue as is, if you're just kind of doing it for fun, for hobby, for some extra cash, then please just keep doing that. Don't worry about it. If you're really looking to scale, figure those things out again. What you want to do, put it on paper first, where you're at now, what you need to do to get to the next level, and then figure out those two vital pieces, which is, how do I buy this stuff in bulk so I can skip all the hours that it takes to travel around town figuring out hit or miss spots that, I might get lucky one day, might come back with nothing the other day, and then figure out the labor portion of it. Start small again with friends, family, aunts, uncles, and then go from there, figure out how you want to scale it. I hope that makes sense. I'm gonna end the vlog. I'm gonna be back at work later tonight, prepping work for the staff tomorrow. So I'll see you guys until then.